Hello and welcome to Dasmore Wargaming on another episode of Behind the Brush. In this episode we are joined by super special guests, Paint Party Scot. How's it going, Ryan? How's it going?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
No
Yay.
problem at all. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. And obviously, as always, my wonderful co-host, Mr. Dante Paints. How are you?
Good evening, good evening.
And I assume you're well?
I'm surviving, which is always good.
There we go. That's what we like to hear. But no, welcome to another episode. Yeah, I say welcome to another episode. This has been super excited to do this one. So for those that are watching in YouTube land, these are recorded on Twitch Live. So if you want to be a part of the recordings in the chats and everything like that, then do go over to Twitch, Dasmore Wargaming. Give us a follow so you get notified when we go live. And yeah, it'd be great to see you there. And yeah, that's it. I've done the intro. I've nailed it. I've kind of ruined it by saying that I've nailed it, but here we go. That's that bit. So, without further ado, let's go into some questioning. This is where the light should go down on your end, Ryan.
Ominous underlighting.
It's the mastermind moment.
Use your imaginations, kid. Here we go.
Now, what is your chosen specialist subject?
The life and times of Ryan, Paint Party Scot from 1988 to whatever you're in these days. Oh no! So bleep that. Bleep me.
I'm gonna
bleep
have
me.
to
yes,
now.
this
is the first person to swear on a YouTube video. Oh.
Yeah, that's the Scottishness coming through.
It's fine.
You mean first guest to swear on a YouTube video?
Yeah. First guest to swear, but never mind. It's fine. On to the question. Onto the question. Here we go. Well, I'll hand it over
to the proper questions.
I'll hand it over to Gareth.
So, when and how did you get into the hobby?
Yes, so getting into the hobby for me, I must have been about 12 years old. And at the time, I was attending karate for exercise, as many children do. The variety of hobbies that your parents take you just to burn energy, so you stop annoying them. So I was at that, and I had a good friend who I was staying at his house, who was also with me, and he was like, "Look at this. These are Space Marines, and these are Tyranids." Now, this was 3rd edition Warhammer. Must have been 2000, 2001, and we played a little tiny skirmish game. I had no idea what was happening, but it was flipping awesome. And he started to explain Space Marines and absolutely everything else about it. And I went off and researched it, and that's just where it sort of grew from there. And before I knew it, I bought my first ever model I bought was an Eldar Viper jet bike, and I just coated that thing in maroon paint horrendously. I think I've still got it somewhere, and it's just so chunky and thick. It's awful. It's great. And I never even collected Eldar. Or Eldari, sorry. It's just one of those random things. I bought a few Space Marines, painted some random things, ended up actually getting lured into Warhammer Fantasy for a few years, painted a High Elf army for 6th edition, played 3 or 4 games, lost all of them, just painted mainly, and then just drifted out of it. So, as you get a bit older, played a lot more of the video games, Dawn of War, all the classics, but still collected Black Library books, and that was still my thing. Even though I drifted away from the hobby per se, I must have 200 Black Library books and almost all of the Horus Heresy. I'm short maybe 1 or 2, and you'll still find me on eBay from time to time, haggling for the overpriced paperbacks that are out there wandering the world. So while I drifted away, I drifted back in as well. So that's where it all began for me.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. Yeah, I mean, most people that are going to be viewing this that will already recognise you will probably know you mostly from your presence on sort of Instagram in the hobby community there. How long have you been an Instagram presence, and what sort of things can people expect to find on your account?
So this must be me moving into year 5, I think now. Actually, it must be coming up for my 5th year anniversary in 2 or 3 months' time. And that was when I started back in the hobby, really. I'd started up just about 2018, 2019 now with some friends' RPG group. They invited me along to start RPGing again. I hadn't done it in years. It's had a great time. And then one of them turns around and says, have you heard of Warhammer 40,000? And, I'm sitting on my throne made of black library books going, yes, I have. And he tells me about 8th edition and how it's amazing and I should get back into it. And it sort of balloons from there. I'm like, yeah, I'll buy a few models and maybe casually try it out and see what happens. And then he was on Instagram and he says, people post their models and stuff on Instagram, get advice, get lots of painting tips on there. You should stick some stuff on. And that's where it started. I got the Dark Vengeance kit from the Dark Angel side of the Dark Vengeance kit from 6th edition that everyone could get for 30 quid on eBay back then before it got relaunched, and painted up some beautifully finger painted Dark Angels, because I'm a special boy. And I've still got a few of them. I've stripped a few of them, and they're bad. And then you can literally see the point I discovered null oil. You can track my Instagram. There's a sort of sudden shift from blocky colours to shiny, badly mixed null oil, but with deep dark shadows and everything. And it sort of grew from there. Then just you get to know more people. The numbers start to grow as people follow you. And I fancied streaming. I started doing lives at night, because that's when I usually paint, and I just called it the late night paint party. It's not even a formal show. It's nothing as organised as you guys. It still isn't. It's just a sort of off the cuff hangout space for people if they want to join. Yeah. People who've never streamed before, and that's the two things I'm sort of known for: painting pretty much Dark Angels and some other models, mostly 40k and a mix of others, and then streaming at night. People just joining in on that. So. That's the thing I'm sort of known for. Yeah.
Wait, we're organised?
No, we're not organised. Trust me, we're not organised.
There was music and sound effects, but my sound effects are just sort of bells and beeps and whistles I make with my whip mouth that people think there's something wrong with me. So it's really not the same. It's really not the same. It's organised is not the word.
If this goes up on Twitch, you'll have to watch back after we've finished this part of it, and then listen into the shenanigans that you won't hear of all the sound effects of people trying to scare Daz.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't encourage people. Anyway.
My job to encourage people.
Do it.
So, speaking of encouragement, thank you for that setup there, Daz. Any advice or encouragement for anyone looking to start a hobby Instagram and join the hobby community there?
It's much like the hobby itself, I find. I don't know how you guys have found it. You just sort of do it, just get out there and do it. There's no, I still honestly believe there's no such thing as a bad paint job, because it is all learning. But having been on the hobby community now or around it for 5 years, you can track people's progress and see their improvement. And there's some people that come right out of the gate and are painting heavy metal or golden demon level models, and that's amazing. And there's some people that, like me, finger paint and then slightly improved, and you can see each technique being gradually discovered and getting slightly better, and just do these things. That's my genuine advice to anyone streaming, especially, because what I think is amazing is I have maybe a group of about 10 real life Warhammer buddies, but I must have 50 people I speak to online regularly about Warhammer, and that's only in the last 5 years, and that was just something I never did before. There was a little bit of Facebook time I spent. You didn't do much things with the community on Facebook, but Instagram, Twitch, and some of the other, TikTok as well, some of the other social media platforms, the communities are just growing leaps and bounds, and there's a real, vibrant dialogue between each other. Just there's a lot of positive stuff, there's a lot of negative stuff, and that's real life, and that's fine. I think. So if people are thinking about painting, do it. The sooner that's my only recommendation. You will not regret it. Streaming, do it. Just try these things out and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, nice
Words
one,
of
nice
wisdom.
one. Like I say, I'm a massive fan of like a lot of the work that you've put up on Instagram. I like your painting style, whether finger painting or whatever you want to call it. I do enjoy it. And you've got a hell of a lot of stuff actually. Painted quite a lot.
Got a lot, yeah. It's and I'm still enjoying it. I just showed you that's the sort of level of addiction that comes with it.
Yeah.
I just find it super relaxing experience. I don't know about you guys in terms of the process of painting. It's a sort of almost mindfulness style thing. Unless you're streaming, of course, and then it's nonsense back and forth with various people off the internet.
Yeah.
But if you're just by yourself, you can just focus in on a project and just work through that and take it
for sure.
I find it really peaceful.
But for me, it's been finger painting since the early 90s and still finger painting standards.
I use potato stamps.
I cut these myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I do like all these things on like side of tanks, like Rhino doors and stuff. Like stamp.
Big stars.
Anyway, I digress. It's not about me. But out of all those models that you've painted, what has been your favourite thing to paint so far? And is there anything you would love to paint in the future?
So yeah, I keep going on about it, and I think it's and I keep posting it, and people must be sick to the back teeth of seeing me post my Lionel Johnson, the model that came out last year, the Primarch of the Dark Angels. I thought it would never happen, and the model that they came out for the 40k version was absolutely glorious, the most knightly space knight you've ever seen, and I really went to town on trying to emulate the heavy metal style. I didn't achieve it, but that's okay. I got close-ish. And I'm happy with that. I think it looks nice, and I just enjoyed every second of that. When something comes with 4 heads and you spent 2 nights gently shaving down the plastic to fit magnets in them, you're really committed to enjoying a model, so that I can swap the heads. And I've played them now, I think in 3 or 4 games. Have I ever swapped the heads? No. but I can. And so I really loved working on that, and same with everyone. There's a model or a range of models that is your first love, especially when it comes to things like Space Marines. Everyone has their chapter that they first start with, and then move on to something else. And so doing that as a sort of the centerpiece model of an army is that was just great, and that's why I think I've posted 40 work in progress shots of them, and then every story that says, "What's your favourite model?" I'm going like, I'm going to put it back on. I'm going to put it back one more time. One more time.
Yeah, that's fair. Anything you'd want to paint in the future?
In terms of dream models, dream projects, definitely one of the Horus Heresy Primarchs. I mean, Fulgrim Ascended is just an absolutely glorious model. I've not got it. I'm not going to commit to it. My difficulty is, I have Emperor's Children for 40k. You can't use that model for 40k. I try to stay practical, spend money on the things that I'm going to use and out of. But it's such a pretty model that I would love to. My mate has one in real life. I'm going to go have a look at it and nosy at his when I next visit him, and be just sort of bask in its glory, and then let it wear me down.
Yeah.
I before we move on to the next question, the thing about the heads for Lionel Johnson, I have this image in my head of Crichton style spare heads sat in your broom, in your painting cupboard or wherever, wondering whether they'll ever get used.
Just talking to each other about it. I've never.
But which one's the broken one that sits there drooling in the corner?
It's the big helmeted one. The helmeted hood one. There's just a line of sort of saliva dripping from the helm. Just been like, oh man, he's had a tough ride. That helmet, tough ride.
So on to the sensible question: how many armies do you own, and which of them is your favourite?
So at the moment, I have 4 armies. if it counts as such a thing, because as you know, what counts as armies in terms of the things you physically have and the things you've actually got painted and ready to go. In terms of things that are ready to go and could be used in a game, it is my favourite, the Dark Angels still. A mix of both Firstborn and Primaris. I probably have, I think I'm only short of 2 of the specific models for the Dark Angels range. I don't have Old Asmodai, and I don't have a second Nephilim jet fighter. I have one of the Dark Talon, which is their specialist fighter that the Dark Angels have, but I don't have the second version of it because I don't need it, but I probably want it. Maybe it'll happen eventually, like many of my other addictive problems. So it's what I've invested most of my time in. I have pretty much a full Deathwing company nearly ready. A few models short of that, but I have all the command squad, I have all the stuff for that. I have a full Green Wing component and a smaller Raven Wing component that I still need to do a bit more work on, repaint a few things, but I've got enough models for it. Yeah. So all in all, a huge Dark Angels contingent. I've spent most of my time on that. I have a half-finished Emperor's Children army, which is mostly the new Chaos Space Marine range. And you know, every day that I don't work on it and finish it, I am filled with a sense of dread that they will launch a codex for Emperor's Children and go, all of these models are invalid. You can take none of these anymore. Oh. And invalidating whatever committed work I've done. But I've got them, and they're great. I just need to commit some time to them and chip away. I also have a starter set for Stormcast for AOS that I've still not cracked into. I have a 1,000 Suns army that I have painted one whole model of, so he's definitely not ready, and assembled a few more. So I'm in terms of what I can really use or get on with, it's only Dark Angels. And of course I did the sensible thing by buying more when the box came out.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Nice and easy, that one.
We'll get you the new Codex addendum as well.
Oh, it needs an addendum. My goodness, I've watched every YouTube review, and it's just can someone play the wah 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 sound? Wah wah wah. There just seems to be misery amongst the Dark Angels community at this stage. But we'll cope. I was here in 8th edition when the rules were rubbish, 9th edition when the rules were better. I'm here in 10th edition when the rules are rubbish again. Cycle, baby.
Yeah, mega fan. But yes. So speaking of favourites of things, this is probably the biggest thing that you could be asked in regards to favourites. But what is your favourite thing about the hobby?
It's actually surprisingly enough, it's more the community. You know, now in terms of the interaction, I never thought I'd say I really enjoy just talking nonsense about. But it's a draw between my community interaction and the lore. They are the two big things, oddly enough, and it's that sort of cycle that feeds into my hobby in the sense of, if I read something cool, I want to paint a cool model related to it, or go back to painting because it inspires me. So, and then I paint something for a game, and then I play a game, and then that inspires me to read more lore, and it sort of cycles round and round in this spiral of hobbying and trying to get ahead of how much I have to paint. So yes, but it's between the lore and the community interaction are the two things for me, and I just love lore stuff. I love book reviews, so I have so many books. I have so many physical books. I have so many digital books. Yeah. It's too much really. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad the answer of community keeps coming up. I'm glad every time someone answers with that. So,
and for me, it's genuine, man. That sounds like I love the community. You should follow me. I know. Exactly. It's quite funny that, you know, especially on the Instagram community, there's the whole algorithm gaming where people follow one follow to push up numbers. I'm just a bit weird in this, and I just follow everyone. I run out of space. I'm thinking about setting up a new page just so I can have space to follow people. So, Paint Part Scot Part 2. I don't know what we'll call it. We'll see what happens, just so I can absorb content and steal people's ideas.
Cool. Cool.
So the next one's a little bit of an odd one. What is your favourite colour and brand of paint? Bearing in mind they don't have to be the same. So you could name, say, a Vallejo colour, but then say that you prefer another brand of paint?
Yep, I would definitely say, oddly enough, I would say my favourite colour to work with is actually a Citadel, because I primarily use Citadel, and I have, Captain Boring here. I use what I like, and I use what I'm used to, and work through. My sort of favourite paint to work with is actually a Shabty Bone. I think it interesting enough, I've done loads and loads of Deathwing. I've loads of bone colour. I just find it nice to work with. It filters down really well, but layers really well, and doesn't go on really streaky. Which for me, doing lots of curved plates and plates of armor and things, it goes on really well. I actually hand painted a whole Land Raider, because this was before I knew there was such things as spray cans or airbrushes or any of that nonsense. So I did a whole Land Raider with just a brush and a pot of a Shabty Bone, and it does look pretty smooth. So it's been always a favourite to come back to, and partly why I have a bigger finished Deathwing contingent than I do Ravenwing. It's just once you get a feel for a colour and how you like using it and changing it up and highlighting it and things, you sort of stick with that.
Yeah.
Interesting in terms of favorite to use is definitely a Shabty Bone. Favorite brand is actually Vallejo, because I have a few Vallejos, and all of them are really good for using. I use them on a few models. They all have that quality that I like about a Shabty. While not every Citadel paint, as you know, does have that quality of how it goes on your wet.
Cough.
And this is how Ryan finished his influencer career and got no free stuff ever.
But Vallejo is coming up quite frequently at the moment.
What I really like about them is that I've only got 4 or 5 Vallejo colours which I use with my Green Wing, but they're matte varnish. I love their matte varnish, which I put usually on my decals and things, and it just goes on. Even if you put it on too thick, it just seems to smooth itself out, clear up whatever shiny problem decals have, and they just look painted on. It's a really good product, and I would highly recommend it. And a hint, Vallejo, sponsor me now.
I say getting into this hobby can be quite difficult for some people, like coming from a fresh, and I think it's more accessible now than it ever was, but I still think it can be a bit of a daunting thing and everything like that. But is there any advice that you'd give anyone wanting to get into the hobby?
Yeah, I mean, start small is reasonable. I think it's probably one of the best times to get into the hobby in terms of how to start, because unlike when I started when I was 12, or even when I came back 4 or 5 years ago, the amount of information out there of a million hobbyists like me telling people how to start and trying to draw people in has never been higher. It's all my adverts and all my social media that I go through now are various types of products. Even clearly it's filtered through to my entire life that they want to advertise me all this related stuff. So starting it, I think there's a really good few options. Things like the combat patrol boxes, all of that sorts of the starter kits for Warhammer 40k and for Age of Sigmar have never been better. I think you get really good value out of most of those boxes, and I think that's the big intimidating thing for me. People can't help but say it's expensive. This hobby is expensive. This hobby, and it is, in the sense of every hobby is expensive. Everything requires a certain investment, and it depends how far you want to take it. As long as you stay in control, nothing needs to be too expensive. It just needs to be balanced against your priorities. If you're like, do I feed the kids this week, or do I buy Leviathan for the 3rd time? Well,
Leviathan. No.
Sort of quiz.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I forgot this is for YouTube. No, that's not true.
Feed the children. Feed the children.
Feed the children first.
Your wife is listening, Daz. Through the door.
But no.
Do you have a hobby hero or someone who particularly inspires you?
In terms of hobby hero, my sort of first painting tutor, who he still stayed small on Instagram, but he was the first one to sort of reach out to me and stream with me. Is Nuts Paints Minis. Chris, who's another Scotsman, he's up in Perth. Which is a shame, but people have got to live there apparently.
Yeah.
But he's the first
Someone has
to reach out, stream with me, teach me a lot of the basic techniques of taking it from finger painting to finger painting with null oil. Ooh. And sort of those sort of basic techniques. And he's always sort of inspired me and given me advice. And I still, this 5 years in, I'm still asking him advice about stuff. And he just casually posts on Instagram. He's not got a specific goal of numbers, followers, influencing. And I try to stick to that myself. That's not where I see I'm going. I'm just sort of collecting people like a spider in a web that I get to chat to and go, hey, have you seen this cool Space Marine?
Yeah.
So that's my sort of buddy hobby hero, big hobby heroes in terms of people that I think enhance the hobby. My paint inspiration is always Richard Gray, Demon Rich on Instagram. If you've spent any time looking at any Golden Demons, his work comes up because he literally, I think, turns plastic toys into art, small art, and it's every, he doesn't paint many models, but every single model, you can see the amount of work put into it, and it takes it to an absolutely stunning level that is, I could never hope to achieve, but at the same time, you can just go, well, this is art. What we do is art in a way. It's just different, and that's what he does. So that's an amazing thing to see.
Oh, amazing! Yes, yeah, he is amazing. Good choice. Good choice. Good choice.
I don't think anyone could ever say, he tries a bit hard though, doesn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, no one could say otherwise. And if you do say otherwise, it's okay to be wrong. So just wondering, so have you got any sort of aspirations for the future, and what can people expect to see from you?
Aspirations for the future, I mean, what I would have, I always fancied making the late night paint party something more formal, with more of a schedule and be more consistent, so people know, a bit like yourselves, when I'm on, and so people can interact more evenly. But it's just not a practical thing for me with the timing. Just like everyone else, real life gets in the way of relaxation and nonsense. You got work to do, kids to look after, all those other sorts of things. You're there, the priority, and that's the way it should be. That's fine. But taking some time for yourself is nice for this. So aspirations for me: keep painting. Keep buying awesome models.
More of the same. More of the same.
The same. Finish my Emperor's Children just in time for them to be rebooted and completely invalid. Try AOS, maybe. It sort of hovers there in the background.
Yeah.
It sort of lingers there like a bad smell.
Defo AOS. Get into that.
But then if it release High Elves again for the old world, then it might blow my mind and tempt it in a different direction. Or maybe I should just stop spending money. That too.
Yeah. Now, normally that would be it for the behind the brush, but I've got a little bit of a bonus question for you. I don't want to be serious for a moment. Post myself. No, in all seriousness though. I was on the fence about whether to talk about this sort of thing, but I think it's important to it. It's a big part of my hobby journey. But I know that you are a big advocate for like mental health and things like that, and you've helped me personally, like through some of my own struggles and things. You've been there for me, which I really, really appreciate. So thank you so much for that. Honestly. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that you are involved in mental health in one way, aren't you? So yeah,
I keep it sort of private. I'm happy to talk about it.
If you're not happy, that's why I was on the fence about talking about it from both angles, but I thought, it's really important. It's really important what talking about the mental health thing, and you've helped me out and things like that. So I just wanted to acknowledge it and sort of see if there was any advice that you'd give anyone that might be struggling. Because I know the hobby, like as positive it is and a great place to be and everything like that, it's there's a lot of people in it that are struggling with mental health issues. And
I think It's one of those things. You're absolutely right, man, and thank you for bringing it up. It's my profession. It's what I work in. It's very important to me, and yeah, the hobby is my downtime, absolutely. And thank you for sort of recognizing that. I use it to separate from myself. I need to de-stress just like everyone else, and that's one of the things I do. So, because would you believe it's really hard working in mental health, because for every time it goes well, it can go really wrong, and that can be very challenging. But for the hobby itself, for people, I think everyone should have a hobby. It doesn't need to be this; it needs to be something for themselves that they do to de-stress and to take away some of the pressures that they. Now, you're right, that's not going to fix everything. That's just one part of an array of things that can be used to help people with those difficulties. And it's interesting to say, because people wonder, does Warhammer or hobbies like this draw in people with mental health difficulties? I would say no. It's just that it's so incredibly common, people don't realise. The statistics are only getting worse in terms of Western mental health, in the sense of we're moving from 1 in 3 people will have some sort of mental health disorder in their lifetime to nearly 1 in 2, and that's progressing. Yeah. So, and we don't really know why, as life gets harder and more challenging in many ways. So, when you say something like half of a community has had some sort of mental health disorder, that's an incredible sort of thing to think of. How many hobbyists we know or encounter, or how wide the Instagram community is, the TikTok community is, the global community is. Yeah. Half of those people are suffering from some sort of mental health problem. Yeah. And it can take a variety of forms. So it touches at every part of our lives, every day. So looking after yourself in a sensible fashion, I think, is entirely appropriate. And I'm not recommending people navel gaze all the time and just be thinking endlessly about their feelings or what's going on, but recognizing that there are resources out there. And I know that the NHS and various other organisations don't always have a great reputation when it comes to mental health, but it is available and it is out there. And the people that work in the service, despite their shortages and limitations, are on it, and they want to help, and they are available for people all the time. So just reach out. And we'll tell you if it's important. You'll tell us if it's important. We'll tell you if it's important, and we'll work together with it. I have so many patients that tell me, the only patients that tell me they don't need to be in hospital or don't want to be in hospital are the people that really usually need to be in hospital or need to get services. They always tell me, but the beds are needed for someone else, or someone else is more important than me, or something. No, that's not the case. If I thought these people didn't need the help they needed, I would tell them to move on, do something else, and then take it away. Yeah. If they need that help, they need to come and access it. And I'm so pleased that I did nothing for you, man. I just said the things, in the few conversations we've had, that you already knew, to make sure you were looking after yourself, and you did the work, as all my patients do. Yeah. I hover in the background giving advice, and then my patients go off and do all the hard work, which is what you did. And I'm glad that you're still working on it. It's never the challenge continues, but it's a battle every day that you choose to engage in, and you need to give yourself the credit for that.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, man. Well said. And I thought I'd just touch on that at the end, because I think it's quite important to make time to talk. Yeah, and there's some great insights you've given there. So yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for doing this behind the brush. It's been fantastic. And yeah, so I think this is the end of that segment for the people on YouTube. But we are going to carry on for the people on Twitch and do some hobby and just have all the banter and things like that. So if you're watching on YouTube and want to be a part of this side of things, then come and follow us on Daz Wargaming on Twitch. You get notified when we do this sort of thing, and you can come out and hang out obviously in the chat and all that jazz, and have a super fun time. But for you YouTube people now, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you think and any other questions you might have for Paint Party Scott. I'm sure I can pass them across. Got anything you want to ask about anything we've mentioned? So I just want to thank my co-host, Mr. Dante Paints. Thank you once again.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Yeah. And thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you for doing this. It's really appreciated.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. It was an absolute pleasure.
No problem.
I'll hover again. I'll be back.
Right, so everyone stay safe, and until next time, happy hobby.